Hey, how are you doing? I am doing incredibly well. I've taken you along for a few exploits out of the shop in the last few weeks. Right now, I have a lot of production to do, and I have a fairly kind of straightforward day in the shop, so I thought today would be a great day to have another press video. Boy, these are really dirty. That's better, huh? Okay, so this is my Heidelberg Tiegel. I don't know what Tiegel means, it's German for something. Otherwise known as a T-platen or Heidelberg Windmill. It's called a Heidelberg Windmill because of this. That. You know, it spins around like a windmill. This press is probably my favorite kind of press that I've ever owned. It can crank really fast and really consistently. There are a couple features that make it really great. A lot of those were rolled out through the years. This one doesn't even have all of them. In fact, this one was made in, well, let's see. So that is 1320908. Oh, later than I expected. Can you see that? 1961. The one feature that came after this press was made that I'm super jealous of and I would love to have, hopefully I'll get a press that has that, is the rollers lock out. That means that these rollers that go kind of up and down, oh, by the way, this one wasn't taken care of as well as some others. You know, it's in a little bit of rough shape, but it's a beautiful press. And so I've got two quick jobs, well, one quick job and one long job I'm gonna do today. And they demonstrate there are things that are really great about this press. So the windmill essentially has two modes that I can print in. One is when I have multiple colors and need really tight register, and I can almost guarantee that every time that I print, it's gonna lock into the exact same place. The other way, I can run a little bit quicker and it's gonna get super close, but it's really great for like one color printing or other things that just don't have to have super tight perfection. So the first job I'm gonna run with guides. The second job I'm running without guides. These are guides. These are the brass guides. There's also nickel guides. They're different heights and kind of do different things. This is this little funky thing that helps me make sure that when the sheet of paper comes down here, it stays where it's supposed to, and it catches behind this little pin right there. There's a little pin right there. So what happens is every time the press cycles, this whole bar comes up like this and will hold the sheet right up against that platen there. When that happens, the gripper arm here actually, well, you can kind of see it's got this little kind of beak thing, and it'll grab a sheet of paper that comes off of, well, let's start at the beginning. This thing right here, it's the air pump. It's got vacuum and blowing, and the vacuum helps move the paper through the press. So we've got some hoses down there at the bottom, and this is where the vacuum goes. This is the sucker bar that lifts the paper up off the stack and takes it into the press. The blowers, well, there's one in this thing. This blower can blow the sheet onto the delivery pile, and that's controlled right here. And over here, kind of all up in this table, are some blowers that separate this stack, that kind of lift the top couple sheets off the top. That's controlled down here. So the press will start by blowing a sheet kind of loosely off the top here. It gets picked up by this sucker bar, and then that little beak right there opens up and grabs the sheet. Well, I'll show you in slow-mo. Watch this. So this grabs this sheet and brings it down here like this. And like I showed you, this right here at the bottom of the cycle lifts up, holds the sheet in the right place down here. There's a little guide right here that stops it at this end, so we know where it ends over here, and it holds the sheet perfectly in that corner so it hits every time. That means if I use the same bottom and side for each color, then I can guarantee that everything's gonna be in the right place. Two-sided gets a little bit more tricky. Anyway, let me set that back to where it belongs. So you see the motor's already running. That's because this press, unlike the Kluges over there, this press has a clutch. That means that this right here engages the press to cycle, just like that. This guard up here, fancy and cool looking, but this actually has the benefit of keeping my face from getting hit by this thing when it comes flopping across here, and it becomes an automatic shutoff. That means if I'm running the press, and it might look something like this, all I have to do is that, and the press stops. So this first job is a two-color job. I'm only running the first color today. I've already cycled the press enough that the ink is distributed. I'm gonna run a sheet and then make sure that it's square against the bottom edge. Okay, so that sheet actually slipped while I was printing it and didn't go where it was supposed to. Also, the last thing I printed on here was blue. I've got a little bit of blue kind of left in there. I'll run a couple and see if the blue disappears. If not, I need to wash this press up again. When the gripper drops the sheet into register, it's missing that little pin, falling on the outside of the gauge pin, and it picks it back up all wonky, it prints wonky. There's some adjustments I can do in there to make that work better. Well, that's the issue. There we go. Okay, so it's still a little bit blue. I don't know if you can see that very well. And I've got some register issues. It's not lined up very well, but it's a good start. So I'm actually gonna wash all the white off of here one more time and put new white on there and try to get rid of some of that blue again. So now that it's printing well, I need to check to make sure that it's square. I have to adjust those rails. If that little mark there and that little mark there aren't right there, aren't the exact same distance from this edge, I know I've messed up somewhere. I use this. This is actually a hem guide for like a seamstress. I'm spot on. That rarely happens that quickly, but it is. I'm right at that mark right there. There. In theory, I can run, I have 100 finished pieces I need, so I'm gonna run, I wanna keep some extras of these, so I'll probably run 130, 150 of them, because I'll lose a few when I run the second color, and then, then we'll keep the rest and keep cranking. Now that I'm done with that job for today, it's time to set the press up for the next job. And that job I'm running what they call commercial. That means those grippers, that little kind of beak, isn't going to release the sheet into the press. It's going to hold on to it while I'm printing. There are a couple changes I'll need to make for that. I'll do it in a second. First, I want to back the impression all the way off so that once I start running the press again, I don't mess anything up while I'm getting everything set up. Go ahead and take this off and back. I won't be needing that. Well, I might, but not yet. And this here, this holds when I've got stocks that are narrower than where this can go. I put this on there. For the longest time, the first time I owned one of these presses, I didn't have that piece. And have mercy, life is tough without it. There they are. That goes in my handy dandy tool tray. Go ahead and take that off. And in a second, I'm going to cycle the press so that I can wash this off and put black on it. But there are 3 adjustments I need to make in order to make this press ready for commercial register. First, I'll turn compression off there. With gauges, without gauges. Without gauges is when this little cam head here, or whatever this is called, is slid down there. This is the mechanism by which the grippers don't open. When this is up here, those grippers will open when the sheet gets down here. When this is in the position it's currently in, these grippers only open up when they're delivering paper and when they're picking paper up. The other big one you saw already, it's these. I want to get these guides out of the way. So this I probably need to lubricate, but we're going to do that. And what that does is that leaves those kind of hanging loose. And that means when the press cycles, they don't lift up. The last thing is something I'll do as the stock comes, but essentially it's taking this left standard, which is normally set all the way over here. We're gonna move it somewhere towards the center. We'll figure out where shortly, because this sheet is gonna sit right in the center of this, and it's gonna get delivered right in the center of this. With the photopolymer in the press, the goal now is to get the sheets lined up perfectly so that every time that I print them, I'm printing, well, let me show you. That's the center of this platform. I want the center of this sheet to line up with that. Go ahead and get those out of the way. This adjusts how quickly this table rises. The thinner the paper, the slower it needs to rise. All right, that's pretty much perfect. So then I'll actually flip it and print the exact same thing just on the other side. This is the fountain. What it does is gives me the opportunity to keep continually adding ink to the form so that when I run big jobs, I don't run out of ink or lose ink density. It's controlled by this little switch over here. The higher the number is, the more ink it picks up, you know, from 0 to 8. I add ink into here, and with every cycle of the press, a little bit of it comes through, and this roller right here grabs it from here and puts it into the ink train. Impression is off, suction is tripped.